Our world is built on forgotten roads. Beneath the emerald canopies of jungles and the silent pressure of ocean depths lie the lost highways of history. We are about to uncover 25 of these forgotten roads, from ancient trade routes swallowed by rainforests to submerged stone avenues beneath the waves. This journey will reveal how entire civilizations connected their worlds and why those pathways vanished. You will discover stories of vanished empires, epic journeys, and mysteries waiting to be solved. Stories that will permanently change how you look at a map. How did a perfectly straight Roman road end up at the bottom of an Italian lake? What network of white stone causeways lies hidden under the dense Maya jungle, so vast it rewrites history? The answers lie ahead, paved in stone and buried by time. What do you think drives us to search for what has been lost? Deep in the rainforests of Central America, a hidden web of stone connects the ghosts of cities. These are the Sac Biob, the white roads of the Maya. To walk one today is to step onto an ancient highway, a raised causeway of crushed limestone and packed earth, often bordered by low stone walls, cutting a straight, deliberate line through the overwhelming green. The longest of these roads, stretching over 60 miles from the city of Koba to the site of Yaxuna, is a testament to an ambition that defies the jungle itself. Imagine the effort. These roads were engineered without metal tools, without the wheel, without draft animals. Workers shaped the landscape with stone, wood, and human strength, lifting these causeways above the flood-prone forest floor to remain dry and passable year-round. Their purpose was the lifeblood of civilization. They were not mere paths. A sacby was a conduit for trade, with porters carrying jade, obsidian, salt, and quetzal feathers from city to city. They were routes for military expeditions, allowing armies to move with surprising speed through otherwise impassable terrain. And they were sacred pathways, processional routes for pilgrims traveling to ceremonial centers for rituals that connected the earthly and the divine. For centuries, the true scale of this network was a mystery, glimpsed only in fragments where the jungle reluctantly gave up a stretch of white stone. But modern eyes now see what the canopy has long concealed. Airborne LiDAR technology, which uses laser pulses to map the ground beneath the trees, has peeled back the green veil. The revelations are breathtaking. What we once thought were isolated roads linking major cities are now understood as a vast, intricate web. The LiDAR maps show Sac Biob branching out like capillaries, connecting not just grand pyramids and palaces, but also linking to remote farmsteads, vital reservoirs, and minor ceremonial platforms. This was not a simple collection of roads between a few powerful cities. This was an integrated system, a foundational network that bound the Maya world together, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and people on a scale we are only beginning to comprehend. The white roads whisper of a connectedness, a logistical sophistication that forces us to rethink this ancient civilization. Yet the ambition to carve order from a hostile landscape was not unique to the Maya. Far across the Atlantic, another empire faced a different kind of wilderness. The Sahara Desert presented a void of sand and scorching sun, a place where roads seemed almost a defiance of nature itself. But the Romans built them anyway. From the bustling ports of North Africa, like the magnificent Leptis Magna in modern-day Libya, their engineers laid down highways that reached like stone fingers into the desert's heart. These were not casual paths. They were imperial instruments built to move legions, administer territory, and most crucially, to tap into the legendary wealth flowing across the sands. Constructing a road here was an act of sheer will. Workers battled extreme heat, scouring winds, and a landscape that offered little but stone and gravel. They used what they could find, paving the way with local materials, creating a stable surface for carts, soldiers, and caravans. The true purpose of these roads reveals itself in what they connected. They linked the Mediterranean coast to distant oases, vital waypoints in the emptiness, and pushed further to remote frontier forts like Bunjem. These forts were lonely islands of Roman order, where soldiers stationed at the edge of the known world kept watch over the desert tracks. The roads were the lifelines that sustained them, and what flowed along these lifelines? The treasures of Africa. Gold from the south, precious salt from desert mines, exotic animals for the games, and sadly, human captives for the slave markets. The Roman roads of the Sahara were built for control and profit, a physical manifestation of an empire's reach. Today, they are ghosts. Shifting dunes have reclaimed much of the pavement, leaving only haunting traces for those who know where to look. A weathered stone mile marker, its Latin inscription barely legible, stands sentinel in the silence. The crumbled walls of a way station, where a caravan might have found water and shelter, now provide scant shade. The ruins of Bunjem itself speak of a distant ambition finally withdrawn. These fragments are a stark reminder. They show us that even the most powerful infrastructure, built to command a continent's trade, can be utterly surrendered to time and the relentless, patient sea of sand. But the sea holds far older secrets than sunken Roman stones. North of Europe, beneath the cold grey waves of the North Sea, lies a forgotten continent. This is Doggerland, a vast and fertile plain that, for thousands of years, connected the British Isles to the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. It was not a barren land bridge, but a rich, inhabited world of rolling hills, forested valleys, and meandering rivers. Then, around 6,500 years before our time, the rising seas finally claimed it. The slow, relentless melt from the last ice age raised ocean levels, and a series of catastrophic tsunamis triggered by underwater landslides delivered the final, devastating blows. The land drowned, and with it, an entire chapter of human prehistory vanished beneath the waves. For centuries, its existence was just a theory, a ghost in the geological record. But modern technology has given us eyes to see this drowned world. Sophisticated sonar mapping from oil and gas surveys has painted a stunningly detailed picture of the seafloor. The scans revealed not just a flat plain, but a complete landscape. We can now trace the winding courses of ancient rivers, like the Schotten River, which once flowed where trawlers now sail. We can identify the outlines of vast, freshwater lakes and the gentle contours of hills and valleys. This was a real, living geography. And the proof of its inhabitants comes up quite literally in the nets of fishermen. For generations, trawlers working the Dogger Bank, a shallow fishing ground, have been hauling up mysterious artifacts from the silt. They find the bones of mammoths, lions, and hyenas, animals that roamed a very different Europe. More poignantly, they find human tools, perfectly crafted flint axe heads, barbed bone points for fishing, and even fragments of worked amber. These are not items lost from a boat. They are the discarded or lost belongings of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers who lived on that land. They walked its trails, hunted in its forests, and fished in its rivers. Their pathways, the natural roads formed by animal tracks and repeated human travel along ridges and riverbanks, are now fossilized landscapes under 100 feet of water. Every dredged tool, every mapped river valley, is a clue in a monumental puzzle. They are helping archaeologists piece together the migration routes our ancestors used as they spread across ancient Europe, following the herds and the seasons across a world that is now utterly lost to the sea. The roads of Doggerland are the most forgotten of all, because the very land they crossed no longer exists. The sheer scale of Maya ambition becomes almost incomprehensible at a place called El Mirador. Buried in the dense northern Petén jungle of Guatemala, this was not just a city. It was a sprawling, pre-classic metropolis, a powerhouse that flourished centuries before the more famous Maya centers, like Tikal, ever reached their peak. and from its heart radiated a system of causeways so massive they can only be described as superhighways. These were not the elegant, raised white roads of later periods. These were statements of raw power, carved directly into the landscape. The widest of them, known as the causeway system, stretches over 130 feet across. To visualize that, picture a modern 8-lane highway, but built entirely by hand over 2,000 years ago. The labor involved is staggering. Creating just 1 mile of such a road required moving millions of cubic feet of earth and limestone fill. This was a society marshalling its entire population to reshape the world around it, lifting these monumental pathways above the swampy lowlands. Their purpose was absolute control. These causeways were the vital arteries of a nascent kingdom. They connected El Mirador to its subsidiary towns and outposts, creating a tightly integrated political and economic unit. Along these broad avenues, armies could march to secure territory. More importantly, they allowed for the efficient movement of the city's lifeblood. Vast quantities of construction material, like the stone for El Mirador's colossal pyramids, including the towering La Danta complex, were hauled from distant quarries. Food surpluses from outlying farms could be centralized to feed the urban population. This network didn't just connect places. It unified a realm, allowing El Mirador to project its influence and sustain its grandeur in a challenging environment. Yet the story grows even deeper, literally. Recent archaeological excavations have made a startling discovery. Beneath the monumental pyramids of El Mirador, researchers have found evidence of even older road networks. This means the city's grand urban plan, with its aligned causeways and ceremonial centers, was not a single, sudden creation. It was built in layers, literally over the top of earlier, sophisticated planning. Each layer represents a generation of engineers and rulers refining the blueprint, expanding the web, and sinking their own legacy into the stone. For over 2 millennia, the jungle has guarded this layered history, its roots slowly pulling apart the stonework, its canopy hiding the true scope of a civilization that built highways when much of the world was still walking footpaths. This submerged road is a ghost from a different kind of battle. One fought not against jungle or desert, but against water itself. In the 1st century of our Common Era, the Roman Emperor Claudius faced a persistent problem. In central Italy, the large Lake Fucinus was a constant threat to the surrounding communities, its waters prone to flooding the fertile land. Claudius, known for his ambitious public works, decided on a monumental solution. He would not just control the lake, he would erase it. For 11 years, an army of 30,000 workers labored to carve a massive drainage tunnel through the solid rock of the surrounding mountain. It was one of the largest engineering projects of the ancient world. When the tunnel was finally opened, the waters of Lake Fucinus began to recede, revealing a vast, muddy basin. And onto this new land, the Romans marched their signature order. They laid out a perfect grid of roads and canals, transforming the former lakebed into productive farmland, complete with new settlements. This was the Roman dream made manifest, conquering nature itself to create profitable, organized territory. But nature is a patient adversary. Over the centuries that followed, the great drainage tunnel slowly silted up and fell into disrepair. Without constant maintenance, the waters began to return. By the late 19th century, the lake had fully reclaimed its ancient basin, drowning the Roman farmland and the infrastructure that supported it. For decades, the story of Claudius's victory was just that, a story recorded in history books with no physical proof beneath the placid lake's surface. Then, modern underwater archaeologists, equipped with sonar and diving gear, went looking. What they found is breathtakingly precise. Lying on the lake floor is a long, straight Roman road, perfectly preserved in the cold, dark freshwater. The stone paving is intact. The curbstones, which once defined the road's edge, still stand in neat lines. You can see the grooves worn by cartwheels over centuries of use. It is not a ruin. It is a snapshot, a moment of Roman daily life frozen in time and then placed under a waterlock. This road did not lead to a grand city. It was a local farm road, a practical piece of a reclaimed agricultural landscape. Its stunning preservation forces us to reconsider what we have lost elsewhere. On land, Roman roads were worn away, built over, or quarried for stone. Here, protected by the very water that defeated the empire's engineers, a humble stretch of pavement survives with eerie clarity. It is a monument not to glorious conquest, but to the relentless, everyday work of shaping a world, a testament to an engineering will that briefly held back the sea, only to have its work silently reclaimed. High in the Andes, the stone-paved Inca Trail is a testament to imperial power, but that power had another face, one that looked east into a sea of green. The Inca Empire did not stop at the mountain peaks. Its ambition flowed downhill, reaching into the vast and humid expanse of the Amazon rainforest through a network of eastern roads that have almost completely vanished from human knowledge. These were the empire's secret arteries, connecting the ordered stone world of the highlands to the chaotic, resource-rich lowlands. Constructing a road here required a different kind of genius. Instead of cut stone, engineers used tamped earth, creating raised causeways to stay above the muddy forest floor. They carved long, steep staircases into mountainsides to manage drastic elevation changes. Most astonishing were the bridges. Where deep river gorges blocked the way, the Inca built suspension bridges woven entirely from native grasses and vines, engineering marvels that could span over 100 feet and swing precariously over roaring water. These were not roads for grand processions. They were functional, often narrow paths designed for porters and llama trains carrying vital goods up to the highland heartland. The bounty they transported was the empire's lifeblood. Exotic feathers for royal regalia, precious hardwoods, medicinal, plants unknown in the mountains, and perhaps most importantly, the stimulating leaves of the coca plant, a sacred and essential commodity in Inca culture. Yet the empire guarded these roots with fierce secrecy. Knowledge of the precise paths was restricted, a state secret meant to protect the eastern frontiers from invasion and to control access to the provinces. This intentional obscurity, combined with the rainforest's relentless hunger, has made these roads the ghosts of the Inca world. For centuries, this has fueled one of archaeology's greatest quests, the search for Paititi. Often called the last Inca city, Paititi is a legendary refuge said to have been built deep in the jungle where the empire's last rulers fled from Spanish conquest. Expeditions have searched for it for hundreds of years, following fragmentary clues in colonial documents and indigenous oral histories. The search is not just for golden temples, but for the roads that would have led to them. Finding a lost Inca path in the Amazon is an exercise in patience and interpretation. Archaeologists must look for subtle signs the jungle has not yet erased. A faint, linear depression in the soil, an unnatural alignment of trees, a scatter of pottery shards where a way station might have stood. Satellite imagery and LiDAR can help, but the dense canopy and rapid growth often hide these traces completely. Each potential discovery is a battle against time, vegetation, and the Incas' own successful strategy of concealment. These vanished roads represent a profound duality. They were both a lifeline, physically tethering the diverse ecosystems of an empire, and a barrier, a controlled gateway meant to keep the unknown at bay. Their near-total disappearance reminds us that some roads were never meant to be found by outsiders, their purpose fulfilled only when they faded back into the green silence from which they came. The silence of the deep holds a shape that refuses to be ignored. Off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, in clear, shallow water, lies a formation that looks for all the world like a sunken highway. Known as the Bimini Road, it consists of a straight line of massive, rectangular limestone blocks, some over 15 feet long, arranged in a perfect J-shaped curve that stretches for nearly half a mile. To swim above it is to feel a profound sense of order amidst the randomness of the seafloor. The blocks appear aligned, with neat corners and what seem to be support stones underneath, creating an undeniable impression of human craftsmanship. It is a sight that instantly sparks the imagination, demanding an explanation beyond mere geology. This single underwater feature has become a magnet for one of history's most enduring legends. For decades, enthusiasts and researchers have pointed to the Bimini Road as potential proof, or at least a tantalizing clue, pointing to the lost civilization of Atlantis. The connection was famously fueled by the American psychic Edgar Cayce, who in the 1930s predicted that a portion of Atlantis would rise near Bimini in the late 1960s. When the formation was discovered by divers in 1968, it seemed to many like a prophecy fulfilled. The idea took hold that this was a remnant of a paved road, a seawall, or perhaps a docking facility from a metropolis that vanished beneath the waves. The allure is powerful. It offers a tangible piece to a mythical puzzle, a physical anchor for a story Plato told over 2,000 years ago. This single formation launched a cottage industry of speculation, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and amateur expeditions armed with sonar, all hoping to find more geometric patterns, more proof of a grid, more evidence of a city lying just beyond the edge of the map. The Bimini Road became less an archaeological site and more a cultural icon, a symbol of the ocean's ultimate mystery and our deep desire to find lost worlds. Yet science offers a different, though no less fascinating, narrative. Geologists who have studied the formation closely argue that it is a spectacular example of a natural process. The blocks, they explain, are beach rock. This is a type of sandstone that forms naturally in tropical environments when loose sand and shell fragments on a beach become cemented together by calcium carbonate, essentially turning to stone right where they lie. Over time, as sea levels rose after the last ice age, this cemented sheet was submerged. The relentless forces of currents and tides then began to break the brittle beach rock along natural, rectangular fracture lines, much like mud cracks in a drying puddle. The blocks we see today are the result of this natural fracturing and settling, not careful quarrying and placement. The apparent alignment and the J-shape can be explained by the ancient shoreline curve where the beach rock originally formed. So we are left with a beautiful dichotomy. On one hand, a compelling geological explanation that requires no lost civilization. On the other, a formation so visually perfect it seems to defy coincidence, forever whispering of a grander story. This tension is precisely what gives the Bimini Road its enduring power. It is a Rorschach test on the ocean floor, reflecting back whatever we most want to see, proof of nature's artistry or a signpost from a forgotten age. While the Bimini Road sparks dreams of Atlantis, history's most famous trade network had a shadowy twin, a verdant and treacherous counterpart. We all know the classic Silk Road, those epic desert caravansaries crossing the dunes from China to the Mediterranean. But few remember its southern siblings, the lost jungle passages that were just as vital and far more perilous. These were not open highways under a baking sun, but narrow, muddy trails swallowed by the dripping canopies of Southeast Asia. From the southwestern Chinese province of Yunnan, a labyrinth of paths pushed through impossible terrain, connecting the Middle Kingdom to the ancient kingdoms of India and Burma. This was the Tea-Horse Road, a name that evokes its precious cargo. For over 1,000 years, caravans of sure-footed horses and mules, led by hardy merchants and Tibetan guides, navigated this vertical world. Their journey was a constant battle against geography, They crossed raging rivers on swaying rope bridges, climbed sheer mountain passes shrouded in mist, and descended into steamy, malarial valleys where tigers still roamed. The rewards justified the immense risk. From China went bricks of tightly packed tea, a commodity as valuable as currency in the highlands of Tibet. In return came the strong Tibetan horses, prized by Chinese armies. But the trade was richer still. Along these jungle threads flowed other treasures: Burmese jade of the deepest green, rubies and sapphires from Burmese mines, pungent spices, and bundles of rare medicinal herbs. This was a commerce in luxury and necessity, moving through a landscape that actively resisted the very idea of a road. Today, finding these routes is an act of botanical archaeology. The jungle has not just overgrown them, it has digested them. What remains are haunting fragments, clues for those who know how to look. A moss-covered stone pillar carved with worn characters, marking a fork in the path where a caravan might have rested. The crumbling abutments of a stone bridge, now spanning only a quiet stream, its engineering a silent testament to a once busy crossing. Most enduring are the memories held by the indigenous hill tribes who live in these regions. Their oral histories and ancient songs sometimes preserve the names of forgotten passes and the stories of the strange travelers who passed through their ancestors' lands, carrying bundles of fragrant leaves and glittering stones. These jungle branches of the Silk Road remind us that global connection is not a modern invention. It is an ancient, relentless drive, one that carved pathways through the world's most formidable barriers, leaving behind only whispers in the green gloom. Long before Rome dreamed of stone highways, a different kind of road was being laid across a watery world. In the wetlands and peat bogs of prehistoric Britain, people built not to conquer distance, but to survive it. These were the timber trackways, intricate wooden walkways that snaked across treacherous, sodden ground. The most famous of them, the Sweet Track in Somerset, is a marvel of early engineering. Built in the year 3800 before our Common Era, it is one of the oldest purpose-built roads in the world. Its construction reveals a sophisticated understanding of the landscape. Builders took long, straight trunks of oak, split them lengthwise with stone axes and wooden wedges, and laid the flat planks down like railway sleepers. These were then pegged into place with sharpened wooden stakes, driven through pre-cut holes at an angle to lock the whole structure firmly into the soft peat below. The result was a stable, raised pathway about a mile long, allowing safe, dry passage across a reed-filled swamp where one misstep could mean disappearing into deep, cold water. This was not a casual footpath. The effort required to fell the mature oaks, split the timber, and transport it to the site speaks of a coordinated community with a clear, urgent need. The trackway connected two areas of slightly higher, drier ground, likely joining an island in the marsh, to a ridge on the periphery. It was a practical lifeline, enabling the movement of people, tools, and perhaps trade goods like precious flint or pottery across an otherwise impassable barrier. But these wooden roads may have served a deeper purpose as well. They often point toward ritual sites or burial mounds, suggesting they were also sacred pathways, used for processions and ceremonies in a landscape that was both life-giving and spiritually potent. The true magic, however, lies in their disappearance and miraculous preservation. As sea levels slowly rose and the climate changed, these wetlands expanded. The trackways were eventually abandoned and submerged beneath accumulating layers of waterlogged peat. In this dark, acidic, oxygen-poor environment, the wood did not rot. It was pickled by time, preserved in stunning detail for nearly 6,000 years. When archaeologists carefully excavate a section, it is as if they are uncovering a road that was built yesterday. The tool marks from stone axes are still visible on the planks. The precise joinery is intact. We can even find the footprints of the last people to walk its surface, pressed into the clay beside the timber, a ghostly impression of a Neolithic journey. These submerged roads are more than ancient engineering. They are time capsules. The pollen grains trapped in the peat tell us what plants grew nearby. The discarded artifacts that fell from a traveler's hand, a flint arrowhead or a pottery vessel, speak of daily life. They reveal a society organized enough to undertake communal projects, spiritually connected to a difficult landscape, and clever enough to build elegant solutions from the materials at hand. The sweet track and its kin are humble, wooden answers to an eternal human problem, how to cross from here to there, preserved for us by the very waters that once made them necessary. The ambition to carve order from the wilderness found another breathtaking expression in the sweltering heart of Southeast Asia. The Khmer Empire, famed for the celestial spires of Angkor Wat, was a masterpiece of hydraulic engineering and imperial will, and its lifeblood flowed along a forgotten network of royal highways. Beyond the grand temple complexes, great stone-paved roads radiated from the capital like spokes on a wheel, pushing deep into the surrounding jungle and connecting Angkor to distant, vital provinces hundreds of miles away. These were not simple paths. They were monumental infrastructure projects in their own right. Built from packed earth and faced with blocks of laterite, a locally quarried iron-rich stone, these causeways were deliberately raised several feet above the floodplain. This elevation kept them dry and passable during the relentless monsoon rains, transforming them into all-weather arteries for the empire. They were often flanked by parallel canals, which served a dual purpose. They regulated water flow for the surrounding rice fields, and they provided a parallel transportation route for goods and people via boat, creating a redundant network of movement. Along these roads, at regular intervals, stood rest houses for travelers and way stations for official couriers, ensuring the smooth transit of information and authority across vast distances. One of the most significant of these highways stretched northwest for over 240 miles, connecting Angkor to the important provincial center of Phai Mai in what is now modern Thailand. This road was the empire's tether to a critical region, a tangible line of control. Along it flowed the empire's essential resources. Enormous quantities of rice, the staple that fed the capital's massive population, were transported from outlying farmlands. Manpower, in the form of laborers and soldiers, moved to where the empire needed them, and tribute, the wealth and exotic goods from subjugated territories, traveled back to glorify the god-kings of Angkor. The road to Phai Mai was a physical manifestation of the Khmer's logistical genius, binding diverse landscapes and peoples into a single, cohesive domain. For centuries after the empire's decline, these roads seemed lost, utterly consumed by the voracious tropical forest. But just as with the Maya Sac Biob, modern technology is pulling back the green curtain. Airborne LiDAR surveys over the Cambodian jungle have revealed the ghostly geometry of the ancient Khmer landscape with stunning clarity. From above, the scans show the raised causeways as faint, straight lines cutting through the chaotic tree canopy. They reveal the precise grid of canals, the outlines of long-vanished reservoirs, and the foundations of forgotten temples and settlements that clustered along these routes. These laser maps are rewriting our understanding of the empire's scale and sophistication. They show that the road network was even more extensive and integrated than historical records suggested, linking not just major cities, but also connecting a dense web of smaller communities, markets, and religious sites. Each faint line on the LiDAR screen is a promise, a clue waiting on the forest floor. They mark where archaeologists can now ground truth the scans, searching for the stone bridges, the boundary markers, and the way stations that once made this system hum. These lost highways are silent witnesses to the sheer administrative power of the Khmer, a civilization that did not just build temples to the gods, but paved the very earth to command its world, the deep blue, Off Japan's southernmost island holds a formation that defies simple explanation. Off the coast of Yonaguni, resting about 80 feet below the surface, lies a colossal structure known as the Yonaguni Monument. From the water above, its silhouette is startling. It appears as a massive, terraced ziggurat, a stepped pyramid with sharp, flat platforms, near perfect 90-degree angles, and what looks like a grand staircase ascending one side. The main structure is enormous, stretching over 160 feet long and rising nearly 90 feet from the seafloor. Surrounding it are other puzzling features: a wide, flat area resembling a plaza, a tall, narrow monolith nicknamed the Turtle, and long, straight channels that some interpret as roads or processional ways. To swim through this silent, sunken architecture is to feel an overwhelming sense of purpose, as if you are exploring the ruins of a city built for giants. The debate over its origin is one of the most passionate in underwater archaeology, a perfect clash between geology and the possibility of a lost human past. On one side, mainstream geologists present a compelling natural explanation. They identify the rock as a sedimentary sandstone, part of a formation that was above sea level during the last ice age. The strong currents in this channel, they argue, are powerful sculptors. Over thousands of years, these relentless underwater forces could have eroded the stone along its natural horizontal bedding planes, creating the dramatic step-like terraces. The seemingly straight edges and right angles, they suggest, are the result of the rock fracturing along vertical joints, a common geological process. In this view, the monument is a spectacular example of nature's architecture, a masterpiece of submarine erosion that merely tricks our pattern-seeking minds into seeing human design. Yet other researchers point to details that seem to whisper of a different story. They highlight specific features that appear less random. There are sharp, clean edges on some platforms that look precisely carved, not worn. Some corners meet with an exactitude that seems to go beyond natural fracturing. Perhaps most intriguing are what appear to be tool marks on certain surfaces, linear grooves and patterns that some argue resemble the chisel marks found on known ancient quarries. The most famous proponent of a human origin was the late Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus. After hundreds of dives, he became convinced the site was a complex of man-made structures, potentially dating back over 10,000 years, that sank during a catastrophic seismic event. This theory inevitably connects to legends of a lost Pacific civilization, a prehistoric culture advanced enough to shape stone on this monumental scale before being swallowed by the rising seas. Whether natural wonder or human artifact, the Yonaguni Monument has become a mecca for divers and mystery hunters. From around the world, they descend not just to see a rock formation, but to touch a controversy, to run a gloved hand over a sharp edge and decide for themselves. It stands as a profound question mark on the ocean floor, a place where the line between a world we understand and a world we can only imagine grows tantalizingly thin. The silent sentinels of Rapa Nui did not reach their posts by magic. Across the remote volcanic landscape of Easter Island, a network of forgotten roads provided the stage for one of history's most astonishing logistical dramas, the movement of the Moai. These were not paved highways, but prepared ceremonial paths, meticulously cleared and leveled by the island's ancient Polynesian inhabitants. Some routes are so well defined they have worn deep parallel grooves directly into the island's bedrock, creating permanent scars in the earth. These roads radiated outward from the sacred quarry at Rano Raraku, where nearly 900 statues were carved from the soft volcanic tuff. From this mountain workshop, the road snaked across miles of rolling hills, connecting directly to the coastal ceremonial platforms, the Ahu, where the Moai were meant to stand guard for eternity. The engineering challenge was almost unimaginable. How did a society with no metal, no wheels, and no draft animals transport monolithic stone figures, some weighing over 80 tons and standing 3 stories tall? For decades, the prevailing theory involved a Herculean effort of brute force, with armies of laborers slowly dragging the statues on wooden sledges or rollers. But a more compelling and strangely graceful theory has emerged in recent years. It is known as the walking hypothesis. Archaeologists experimenting with precise replicas discovered that a moai's distinctive design, with its large belly and angled base, is not a flaw, but the key to its movement. By carefully rocking the statue from side to side with coordinated teams pulling on ropes, they could make the colossal figure appear to walk upright across the landscape. Teams could maneuver a multi-ton statue for miles using this method, requiring far fewer people and less timber than previously thought. The worn parallel tracks in the bedrock may be the fossilized evidence of this very process, the paths where the statue's base rocked back and forth as teams guided it forward. These roads were the arteries of a culture's spiritual ambition, a physical manifestation of their connection to the ancestors. Yet this very network is also a map of the island's tragic undoing. The relentless focus on statue construction and transport required immense communal effort and consumed vast resources, particularly the island's precious palm forests, which were felled to make ropes, tools, and likely support structures. As ecological pressure mounted, the society fractured. The roads that once carried symbols of unity and power became obsolete. Statues were abandoned mid-journey, left toppled along. The routes, their voyages forever interrupted. Today, these roads are often just subtle impressions in the grass or those haunting grooves in the bedrock, visible only to those who know where to look. They are silent witnesses to a breathtaking feat of engineering and a profound lesson in balance, showing how the very paths built to sustain a civilization's spirit can, when pushed too far, lead directly to its heart. The moai's roads were carved into rock, but some of history's most vital pathways left no mark at all. Across the continent, beneath the cold, fresh waves of the Great Lakes, lie the forgotten shortcuts of an ancient continent. These are the sunken portages of North America's indigenous peoples. For thousands of years, before European contact, the Great Lakes were not a barrier, but a highway, a liquid network navigated by birch bark canoes. The true genius of this travel lay in the portage, the act of carrying a canoe and its cargo overland to connect one navigable waterway to another. These were not just trails, they were critical nodes in a continent-spanning system of trade, communication, and migration. But the landscape was not static. At the end of the last ice age, as the colossal weight of glaciers retreated, the land itself rebounded and water levels in the Great Lakes basin fluctuated dramatically. Shorelines that are today submerged were once dry land, and waterways that are now separate were once connected by narrow overland corridors. This means the most logical and heavily used portage routes of that ancient time are now lost, lying silently under dozens of feet of water. Archaeologists are now searching for these drowned paths. They use a simple but powerful logic. By studying old geological maps of ancient shorelines, they can predict where natural travel corridors would have existed. A low, narrow strip of land between two bays, for instance, would have been an irresistible shortcut for a canoeist wanting to avoid a long, dangerous paddle around a peninsula. One area of intense interest is the Straits of Mackinac, the turbulent waterway connecting Lakes Michigan and Huron. Sonar surveys of the lakebed here have revealed tantalizing clues. In areas that were dry land 4,000 years ago, researchers have identified strange linear arrangements of stones that do not look natural. Some formations resemble potential camp circles or windbreaks, places where travelers might have stopped to rest during their overland carry. In the clear waters of Georgian Bay, part of Lake Huron, divers have found submerged ancient fishing weirs, stone structures used to channel and catch fish, built on land that is now underwater. These weirs are more than just tools. They are signposts. They indicate a sustained human presence in places that are today completely aquatic, suggesting these were not just occasional crossings, but established parts of a travel corridor. Finding a portage trail itself is far more difficult, as it would have been a worn path, not a built structure. But finding the campsites, tool-making stations, or ceremonial sites that naturally developed at either end of a portage is like finding the on and off ramps of a lost highway. Together, these clues paint a picture of a dynamic, ancient map. They hint at a time when you could paddle your canoe to a certain spot, lift it onto your shoulders, and walk for a mile across a forested ridge to reach the next lake, a ridge that now exists only as a subtle contour on a sonar map, a ghost of solid ground beneath the endless blue. The legend spoke of a place where the jungle would not allow you to see the sky. For centuries, explorers and local tribes whispered of La Ciudad Blanca, the White City, a lost metropolis hidden in the impenetrable rainforest of Honduras' Mosquitia region. It was a story so potent it earned another name, the Lost City of the Monkey God, a place of immense wealth and deadly curse, protected by a wilderness that seemed actively hostile to outsiders. Dense vegetation, steep ravines, venomous snakes, and disease had turned back every serious attempt to find it, leaving the legend to grow in the shadows. The breakthrough would not come from a machete, but from a laser fired from the sky. In 2012, a team of scientists flew a plane equipped with LiDAR over the Mosquitia jungle. The technology worked its magic, digitally stripping away millions of leaves and branches to reveal the naked earth below. What appeared on their screens was not a single structure, but an entire urban landscape. The scans showed a sprawling complex with large plazas, earthen pyramids, irrigation canals, and most tellingly, a network of raised causeways and pathways connecting it all. The legend was real, and it was far bigger than anyone had dreamed. Confirming the LiDAR data required a journey into the heart of the myth. In 2015, a joint Honduran and American expedition, accompanied by elite former soldiers for protection, hacked their way into the valley. What they found was a time capsule. They emerged into a clearing to see a sprawling plaza dominated by a massive earthen pyramid, all blanketed in a pristine, untouched cloak of jungle. They documented stone sculptures, ceremonial seats, and vast quantities of vessels left exactly where they had been placed centuries before, suggesting the site was abandoned in an orderly fashion, not overrun. The site, now referred to by researchers as the City of the Jaguar, revealed its most profound secret in its very layout. The LiDAR maps and ground surveys showed a sophisticated system of transportation and water management. Raised causeways, similar to the Maya Sac Biob but belonging to a distinct culture, connected the ceremonial core to outlying residential areas and agricultural terraces. These were not just trails, but engineered roads that directed foot traffic and managed the flow of water across the landscape, integrated with a complex network of canals and reservoirs. For archaeologists, these untouched pathways are a direct line to a lost civilization. Because the site was never looted or disturbed, the context is pristine. The roads tell a story of daily life, of how people moved from their homes to the ceremonial center, how they transported goods, and how they organized their society. The very presence of such an extensive planned network in such a remote location suggests a centralized authority with the power to mobilize labor and reshape the environment. This discovery is rewriting the map of pre-Columbian Central America. The City of the Jaguar does not appear to be Maya, nor does it clearly align with other known cultures. It represents something entirely new, a previously unknown civilization that reached a level of complexity and urban planning in the depths of the rainforest, its history written not in stone carvings, but in the very shape of the land, in the raised causeways that still wait, silent and patient beneath the green canopy. Beneath the gentle, sunlit waters of the Mediterranean lies a city that never crumbled. Off the southern coast of Greece, near the village that gives it its name, Pavlopetri is the world's oldest known submerged city, a complete Bronze Age settlement dating back over 5,000 years. While other ruins are broken skeletons of walls, Pavlopetri is a ghostly blueprint, its entire urban plan preserved in stunning detail on the sandy seafloor. What makes it so breathtakingly clear are its roads. We can still see the network of stone-paved streets, wide enough for carts, that once connected neighborhoods, wound around courtyards, and led to the city's central complex. These are not just paths. They are the organizing principle of a lost society laid bare for us to walk in our minds. The city's preservation is a story of gentle catastrophe. Unlike settlements destroyed by war or earthquake, Pavlopetri met its end through the slow, inexorable rise of the sea. Around 1,000 years before the Common Era, as global water levels crept upward, the Mediterranean began to claim the city's shoreline. The process was gradual, allowing sediments to settle over the abandoned buildings and streets without violent erosion. This calm submergence acted as a perfect time capsule, sealing the city's final layout under a protective blanket of sand and water. The result is an archaeological snapshot of unparalleled clarity. Archaeologists diving on the site do not just find scattered artifacts, they navigate a literal street grid. They can follow a main thoroughfare from what was the city's edge, past the foundations of two-story houses with their rooms still defined, and into a central public space that likely served as a marketplace or communal square. The paved roads give structure to everything, revealing how space was allocated for homes, industry, and ceremony. Mapping these submerged streets is like deciphering the city's silent language. Each intersection, each widening of a road near a likely shop or workshop, tells a story of daily life and social structure. The width and quality of the paving suggest the importance of certain routes, perhaps leading to a ruler's residence or temple. The layout itself hints at a sophisticated understanding of urban planning, with buildings aligned to the streets in an orderly fashion that suggests central authority or a long-established building tradition. From this plan, archaeologists can infer how the city functioned. The presence of large courtyards connected by these roads points to household industries like weaving or pottery. The clear paths leading to the waterfront indicate a community deeply engaged with the sea. Its economy likely built on fishing, the production of purple dye from murex snails, and, crucially, trade. Pavlopetri was perfectly positioned along Bronze Age maritime trade routes that connected mainland Greece with Crete, the Cycladic Islands, and beyond. Its intact roads, leading directly to what was a bustling harbor, allow us to trace the physical journey of goods like Minoan pottery, Cypriot copper, and Anatolian obsidian from ship to warehouse to home. This is a city frozen, not at a moment of death, but in the middle of its life. There is an eerie, profound stillness to its preservation. To see a stone threshold, a set of steps leading into a building that now opens only to open water, or a tomb carved into the bedrock beside a well-traveled road, is to feel a connection that bypasses millennia. The paved roads of Pavlopetri are more than stone. They are the frozen rhythms of a community. They ask us to consider the footsteps that wore them smooth, the conversations that echoed along them, and the final day when the rising sea first licked at their edges, turning vital arteries into relics on a soon-to-be-forgotten ocean floor. But the greatest roads are not always for trade or travel. Some were designed for the soul's journey. In the heart of Java, the colossal 9th-century Buddhist temple of Borobudur rises from the green Kedu plain like a stone mountain of enlightenment. Its 9 terraces and 72 perforated stupas are world-famous, a destination for millions. Yet the temple itself might be just the centerpiece of a much grander, hidden design. Scholars have long theorized that Borobudur was not an isolated monument, but the spiritual nucleus of a vast mandala-shaped sacred landscape. This cosmic diagram, representing the universe in Buddhist and Hindu thought, may have been physically mapped onto the earth itself, with Borobudur at its heart, connected by a web of forgotten processional ways to other temples and sites across the plain. Imagine the vision. Pilgrims would not have simply arrived at Borobudur. Their spiritual ascent likely began miles away, following prescribed sacred pathways that prepared the mind and body for the temple's ultimate revelation. These would have been roads of ritual, lined perhaps with markers, shrines, or stations for meditation, guiding devotees through the physical world as they symbolically moved from the realm of desire, through the realm of form, and finally toward the formless realm of nirvana at the summit. The potential endpoints of these roads are other magnificent temples that still stand in the region, like the Hindu complex of Prambanan. Could there have been a deliberate, physical, and spiritual connection between these great centers of different faiths? A dialogue in stone and pathway? The landscape itself suggests a profound intentionality. The Keju Plain is exceptionally fertile, framed by a ring of volcanoes that ancient builders saw as a natural representation of the sacred mountain, Mount Meru, at the center of the cosmos. Placing Borobudur here was an act of aligning human creation with divine geography. But where are the roads? The evidence is buried, quite literally. The violent eruption of Mount Merapi in the 10th century, along with other volcanic activity, blanketed the entire plain in thick layers of ash and debris. This cataclysm likely led to the temple's abandonment and the collapse of the civilization that built it. Over the following centuries, tropical growth and the relentless expansion of rice agriculture reclaimed the land, smoothing over any surface traces of ancient processional routes. The sacred network vanished from sight, leaving only the silent, standalone temples as clues. Today, the search for these lost pathways is a high-tech puzzle. Archaeologists and geologists are using ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity surveys, and detailed analysis of satellite imagery to look beneath the rice paddies and villages. They are searching for anomalies, straight linear features or patterns of stone that could indicate a buried roadbed. The goal is to piece together the ritual geography, to see Borobudur not as a solitary wonder, but as the central node in an interconnected system of faith and royal power. Finding even one of these roads would transform our understanding. It would reveal the choreography of ancient pilgrimage, showing how movement through the landscape was an integral part of the worship experience. It would underscore the staggering logistical and spiritual ambition of the Sailendra dynasty that built it, suggesting they sought to shape not just a temple, but an entire world into an instrument for enlightenment. The hidden processional ways of Borobudur remind us that the most important journeys are often inward, and that sometimes the path to awakening is not just a metaphor, but a road waiting to be uncovered beneath our feet. The Vikings mastered the open sea, but their world was built on drowned shores. While we picture their dragon ships crossing the North Atlantic, the true cradle of Norse power lay in the intricate fjords and sheltered bays of Scandinavia, places that have been dramatically reshaped by the sea itself. Since the end of the Ice, last ice age, the land in this part of the world has been slowly rebounding from the weight of ancient glaciers, but in southern Scandinavia, this uplift is outpaced by rising global sea levels. The result is a coastline in constant, slow-motion retreat, where Viking Age harbors and the coastal roads that link them now lie submerged. These aren't deep ocean secrets, they are lost landscapes just offshore, hiding the very infrastructure that launched the Viking Age. Take Hedeby, one of the greatest trading centers of Northern Europe. Today, its archaeological site sits inland in Germany, but in its 10th century heyday, it was a bustling port on the Schlei Inlet. Recent excavations and geophysical surveys have revealed that a significant portion of Hedeby's original harbor, with its wooden jetties, boat sheds, and fortified shoreline, now lies underwater and sediment. The roads that once carried goods from ships to the town's warehouses now slope gently into the murk, their final destination, the bottom of the fjord. This pattern repeats across the region. In Norwegian fjords, sonar scans have detected strange linear formations on the seabed in areas that were dry land 1,000 years ago. These are not natural. They appear to be the remains of constructed causeways or landing stages built from stone and wood to create stable platforms and pathways along what was then the water's edge. These were the coastal roads for a maritime society, the places where ships were drawn up for repair, where cargo was transferred, and where seasonal marketplaces would have sprung up. The underwater evidence is remarkably tangible. Archaeologists diving in these cold, dark waters find the posts of wooden piers still standing in the silt. They uncover the ballast stones from ships that never left port and the everyday debris of commerce that fell between the planks, like coins, broken weights from scales, and tools. Most telling are the shipwrecks themselves, not of ocean-going raiding vessels, but of smaller, utilitarian ferries and cargo boats designed for local transport within the fjord networks. These finds paint a picture of a complex, localized economy that existed alongside the famous long-distance raids. The Vikings were not just raiders who exploded outward from a primitive base. They were savvy coastal developers who built and maintained vital infrastructure to support trade, communication, and naval power close to home. Each submerged jetty is a lost connection, a node in a network that has literally sunk from view. This rewriting of the coastline forces us to reimagine the Viking map. What we see today as a continuous shoreline was, in their time, a more indented and complex coast, with more islands, more sheltered lagoons, and more peninsulas that have since been eroded or flooded. The safe anchorages they relied upon for assembling fleets or overwintering ships may now be open water. The natural navigation landmarks they used are gone. This means the very routes they sailed along their own coasts, the protected inside passages that were their maritime highways, have been altered forever. The drowned Viking shores remind us that even the hardiest seafarers were tied to the land, and that the maps we use today are just a single frame in the long, slow film of geological change, a change that quietly consumed the launch pads of history. The Amazon has long been described as a pristine wilderness untouched by human hands, until very recently. That story is now being erased, not by modern development, but by the very act of clearing the forest. From the skies above the Brazilian and Bolivian states of Acre and Pando, a startling new geography has emerged. Where cattle ranchers cleared the land, the scars have revealed not just soil, but shapes. Enormous geometric earthworks, known as geoglyphs, have been etched into the ground. From above, they appear as perfect circles, squares, octagons, and lines, some over 1,000 feet across, their ditches and embankments forming precise patterns in the red earth. Hundreds of these formations have been catalogued, and they date back over 2,000 years. They were not villages or forts, but ceremonial enclosures, places of gathering and ritual for a society we are only beginning to understand. The most profound mystery lies in how these isolated sites related to one another. Archaeologists studying the patterns have noticed something compelling. Many of the geoglyphs are aligned along straight paths. This has led to a revolutionary theory that these were not standalone sites, but nodes in a vast, interconnected landscape linked by a network of straight, wide avenues cleared through the ancient forest. These would have been ceremonial roads, processional ways that connected one ritual center to another, allowing people to travel between them for seasonal festivals, trade gatherings, or political ceremonies. The implications of this are staggering. For centuries, the dominant narrative held that the Amazon before 1492 was sparsely populated by small nomadic tribes who lived in harmony with, but did not fundamentally alter, the jungle. The geoglyphs and their potential road network shatter that idea. They point to a past where significant portions of the Western Amazon were home to complex, sedentary societies. These were people who could organize the labor to dig massive earthworks, who had the astronomical knowledge to align their creations with solstice sunrises, and who possessed the social structure to build and maintain cleared pathways across long distances. They were not just living in the forest, they were actively managing it, creating a built environment on a monumental scale. This was a civilization with its own sacred geography, its own map of meaning written into the earth. Yet today, there is no visible trace of these roads on the surface. The forest reclaimed them with breathtaking efficiency. Unlike stone roads in deserts, these were cleared soil pathways. Once the society that maintained them declined or transformed, the jungle would have rushed back in within a generation or two, leaving no obvious trace for a person walking on the ground. The only reason we see the geoglyphs at all is because modern deforestation has scraped the land down to its ancient skin. The roads themselves remain invisible, their existence inferred from the alignment of the sites and from subtle soil chemistry and vegetation patterns that archaeologists are now learning to read. This lost network forces a complete reimagining of Amazonian history. It suggests a time when the rainforest was not a barrier, but a connector, crisscrossed by avenues of ceremony and communication. The silent, empty circles in the cleared fields are not just puzzles. They are the footprints of a forgotten world, a world that built its temples not from stone, but from the earth itself, and connected them with roads that vanished the moment the last pilgrim walked home. The silent geometry of the Amazon hints at a connected world, but the Mediterranean holds a city that was a connection made stone. For centuries, the Egyptian port of Herakleion was thought to be a myth, a place mentioned by Herodotus and visited by Helen of Troy, lost to legend. Then, in the year 2000, a French underwater archaeologist named Frank Gaudiot, working off the coast of Alexandria, saw something unexpected on his sonar screen. The seafloor was not flat, it was crowded. His team dove into the murky waters of Abukir Bay, and as their lights pierced the gloom, they found not scattered ruins, but an entire city sleeping in the silt. This was Thonis, as the Egyptians called it, the gateway to Egypt for all Greek trade, and it had been perfectly preserved by its own catastrophic demise. The city did not simply crumble. Around the 8th century of our Common Era, the ground beneath it literally gave way. The region's unstable, waterlogged clay soil, likely triggered by a major earthquake, underwent a process called liquefaction. The solid earth turned suddenly to liquid quicksand, and the entire city, with all its massive stone buildings, statues, and roads, sank over 40 feet into the Mediterranean, vanishing from history for over a millennium. That sudden, swallowing descent is what saved it for us. Instead of being broken apart by waves and looted over centuries, Herakleion was entombed in a protective layer of sediment, a time capsule sealed by the sea. What the excavations have revealed is a breathtakingly complete urban landscape. The colossal statues of a pharaoh and a queen, each standing over 15 feet tall, still guard the entrance to a great temple of Amun. Stone slabs inscribed in both ancient Egyptian and Greek lay where they fell, declaring the laws of the port. And everywhere, the archaeologists found the roads. The city was laced with a network of stone-paved avenues and grand canals, a watery grid that functioned like the streets of Venice. These were not mere pathways. The main canal was a grand processional waterway, wide enough for ceremonial barges to pass during religious festivals, connecting the great temple to the city's bustling harbor. Flanking this central canal were stone embankments and quays, the paved roads of the waterfront where merchants from across the ancient world once haggled. You can still see the mooring stones, massive limestone blocks with holes for ropes, where ships from Greece, Phoenicia, and beyond tied up to unload their wine, olive oil, and silver, taking on Egypt's priceless grain, papyrus, and gold. The underwater scene is one of suspended animation. A stone avenue leads directly to the steps of a submerged temple. A votive statue of the god Hapi, deity of the Nile flood, lies on its side beside what was a major intersection. The wreck of a 70-foot-long ceremonial barge rests in the middle of a canal, its cargo of coins and bronze weights still on board, as if the crew simply stepped away moments before the disaster. These roads and canals are the frozen circuitry of a global hub. They map the flow of ancient globalization, showing how tax goods were moved from ship to warehouse, how pilgrims traveled to the temple, and how the city's daily life pulsed along these stone lines. The silence now is absolute, broken only by the quiet exhalation of a diver's bubbles drifting past a hieroglyphic inscription. Heracleon's tragedy became archaeology's gift, gifting us not with fragments, but with a living map of a legendary port, its sunken avenues pointing to a time when this was the very center of the world. Herodotus wrote of a road so efficient, a message could cross an empire in a week. The Persian Royal Road, stretching over 1,600 miles from the glittering capital of Susa to the distant satrapy of Sardis, was the administrative spine of the Achaemenid Empire, a feat of logistics that made Rome's later network seem almost provincial. Yet for all its historical fame, the physical road itself has proven elusive, its grand pavements largely swallowed by the very landscapes they conquered. Through the remote highlands of modern Turkey and the stark valleys of Iran, the original path has often vanished, leaving archaeologists to piece together a ghostly itinerary from scattered clues. They begin with the words of Herodotus, who provided not just a travelogue, but a list of imperial way stations, the stathmoiais, that served as rest houses, military posts, and fresh horse depots for the king's couriers. Finding these way stations is the key to mapping the road. Teams survey areas described in the ancient texts, searching for telltale mounds of rubble that once formed caravanserais. A scatter of distinctive pottery, a worn foundation stone in an empty field, or the persistent local name of a nearby village can point to a long, vanished stop. Sometimes, the most compelling evidence is found far from any modern highway. A farmer plowing a remote hillside might uncover a line of ancient paving stones, perfectly cut and fitted, leading nowhere through his field. These lonely fragments are the road's true signature, confirming a route that modern development has otherwise erased. To stand on one of these isolated stretches is to feel the empire's pulse. This was not a road for leisurely travel. It was a channel of imperial power designed for speed and control. Royal couriers, the angaroi, rode in relays, changing horses at each way station to maintain a blistering pace, carrying the decrees of the King of Kings. Behind them came the armies, marching in disciplined columns to secure the restive frontiers, and then the caravans, a river of commerce carrying lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedar from Lebanon, and spices from the east, all flowing toward the heart of the empire. The road unified a realm of incredible diversity, from the deserts of Mesopotamia to the snowy peaks of Anatolia. Today, that unity is fractured. In many places, the ancient route has simply been absorbed. A modern asphalt highway in Turkey may follow the same gentle grade a Persian engineer chose 2,500 years ago, burying the original road beneath layers of tar and progress. In cities, the Grand Avenue into Sardis lies under centuries of subsequent occupation, its stones repurposed into later walls. In the empty places, where no one built, the road has done what all abandoned things do in the wilderness. It has faded. Wind has scoured its surface. Soil has crept over its edges, and grasses have taken root between the stones, slowly pulling the empire's greatest work back into the gentle embrace of the earth. These fragments, from a single paving stone to the outline of a forgotten caravanserai, are more than ruins. They are points on a connect-the-dots map of dominion, reminding us that the most powerful networks are not always the most visible, and that the path of history is often just beneath our feet. Decadence now lies 40 feet beneath the waves. In the Bay of Naples, where the volcanic earth breathes slowly up and down, the Roman resort of Baiae did not simply fall. It was gradually, inexorably swallowed by the sea, a victim of a geological phenomenon called Bradysism. The land here is unstable, a soft crust over a chamber of molten rock and superheated water, causing the shoreline to rise and sink over centuries. Baiae, the empire's most notorious pleasure ground, chose the wrong place to build its paradise. Today, it is an underwater archaeological park, a ghostly district where the luxurious villas of emperors and senators are visited not by senators, but by schools of silvery fish. The most breathtaking sights are not the toppled columns or the statues of gods now resting on the sand, but the floors. Vast, intricate mosaic carpets, once trod by the sandaled feet of Rome's most powerful and corrupt, now line the silent seabed. These were the ultimate paved roads of the elite, private avenues of artistry within their sprawling seaside mansions. To dive here is to swim through a drowned dream of opulence. The mosaics are stunningly preserved, their tiny tesserae of colored stone and glass still forming vivid geometric patterns, scenes of mythological triumph and elaborate floral borders. In the diffused blue light, a mosaic depicting Neptune driving his sea chariot feels eerily prophetic, a god reclaiming his domain. Another shows a complex labyrinth pattern, a metaphor perhaps for the political intrigues plotted in these very rooms. These were not mere decorations, they were statements of limitless wealth and refined taste, the final surface of the most exclusive roads in the Roman world, the walkways through private gardens, across sun-drenched atriums, and along colonnaded porticos overlooking the bay. This is where Cicero wrote, where emperors like Nero and Caligula indulged their excesses, and where the rich and powerful came to see and be seen, to broker deals and orchestrate scandals away from the prying eyes of Rome. Baiae was legendary for its hedonism. Ancient writers spoke of its thermal springs, its constant parties, and its moral decay with a mix of fascination and disapproval. The poet Seneca called it a vortex of luxury. The roads of Baiae, therefore, were not routes of trade or military conquest. They were pathways of leisure and vice, connecting bathhouses to banquet halls, villas to private beaches. Now those pathways serve a different purpose. The same mosaic that guided a reveler to a midnight symposium now guides a diver's fin kick through a doorway. The courtyard that hosted scandalous poetry readings is now a meeting point for groupers. This transformation is what makes Baiae so profoundly unique. It is not a city lost to catastrophe like Pompeii, frozen in a single moment of terror. This is a slow, deliberate sinking, a lingering submersion that has created a museum without walls, where the artifacts remain in their original context on the very floor of the sea. The opulent avenues of Roman excess have become serene, aquatic galleries, inviting a quiet contemplation the site never knew in its heyday. The silent, mosaic-lined roads of Baiae ask a haunting question. What happens when the playground of an empire is given back to the ocean and its most prized possessions become the scenery for an entirely different, older world? The Gran Chaco is a world of thorns and dust, a sprawling semi-arid wilderness that blankets parts of Paraguay, Bolivia, and Argentina. It is a place of extreme heat, impenetrable thorn forests, and seasonal floods, a landscape that seems to defy human settlement, let alone grand engineering. Yet here, hidden in plain sight, are the faint signatures of a lost network. Early Spanish explorers, pushing into this unforgiving territory, wrote with frustration of straight, cleared paths that ran for miles through the brush, seemingly maintained by unseen hands. They were not imagining things. Modern archaeology confirms that long before the Inca Empire rose to power, the indigenous peoples of the Gran Chaco were master landscape architects, carving order into the chaos. Their roads were not paved with stone. In this land of few rocks, they built with earth and vision. They created long, straight causeways, raised slightly above the floodplain, connecting one community to another across the vast flat expanse. They built aligned earthen mounds, which served as ceremonial centers and landmarks, and these mounds are often connected by those same linear pathways. The engineering is subtle but deliberate. These were not random trails worn by animals. They are straight for remarkable distances, indicating a sophisticated understanding of surveying and a communal agreement to maintain a specific route. The purpose of this network was survival and connection in a harsh world. Scattered communities, often separated by dozens of miles of difficult terrain, needed to stay linked. These roads facilitated the trade of essential goods. Salt from the Great Salt Flats, precious feathers, hardwoods, and perhaps most importantly, news and alliances flowed along these cleared lines. They were also ceremonial avenues, guiding people from outlying villages to the mound centers for seasonal gatherings, rituals, and political meetings. The entire system speaks of a complex, interconnected society that thrived in an environment most would consider uninhabitable. Tracing these roads today is among archaeology's greatest challenges. The Chaco has swallowed them whole. Unlike stone Roman roads, these earthen causeways and cleared paths vanish under new growth with terrifying speed. A pathway meticulously maintained for generations can disappear within a few years of abandonment, reclaimed by thorny scrub. Researchers must rely on aerial photography, satellite imagery, and LiDAR to detect the faintest linear traces, the ghostly shadows of old soil disturbance visible only from above. Even then, confirming a road requires painstaking ground surveys, looking for the slight rise of an embankment or the unnatural straightness of a vegetation line. These pathways are whispers in the dust, the most ephemeral of all the forgotten roads. They force us to reconsider the Gran Chaco not as an empty wasteland, but as a once busy crossroads, a region woven together by a web of intention now almost completely erased by time and thorn. Ireland's soft, wet earth holds roads built not to conquer distance, but to traverse the impossible. Beyond the famous timber trackways of England, the bogs and lofts of the Irish landscape conceal their own network of forgotten pathways, engineered solutions to a terrain that was both spiritually potent and physically treacherous. The most spectacular of these is the Corlia Trackway. Built in the year 148 before our Common Era, this was not a simple path. It was a monumental oak road, a raised causeway built across the unstable surface of a vast bog. For nearly a mile, ancient builders laid down parallel rails of hefty oak beams, then pinned a surface of split oak planks across them, creating a solid, dry highway wide enough for 2 carts to pass. The scale of the labor is almost unthinkable. To construct just this single mile required the felling of an entire ancient oak forest, perhaps hundreds of mature trees. Each massive beam was hauled by hand and muscle into the sucking, watery mire and locked into place. This was not a casual community project. It was an act of concentrated, organized power, a statement in wood pressed into the peat. But why build such an extravagant road across a desolate bog? Practicality was certainly one reason. It connected areas of dry, habitable land, allowing for the movement of people, animals, and goods across a landscape that was otherwise a dangerous, impassable barrier. Yet the destination hints at a deeper purpose. Many of these bog roads and others found submerged in lakes that were once dry land point toward places of profound ritual significance. They often lead to small, secluded islands in lakes or to natural mounds in the bogs that were used for centuries as ceremonial sites. The road itself may have been part of the ritual. Walking the straight, firm planks across the unstable, spirit-haunted bog could have been a symbolic journey, a passage from the ordinary world into a sacred space reserved for offerings, gatherings, or communication with the other world. The bog was not just an obstacle to the Iron Age mind. It was a liminal place, a doorway between realms, and building a road across it was an act of both defiance and reverence. The true gift of these places is their miraculous preservation. When a wooden trackway like Corlia was abandoned, the acidic, oxygen-poor water of the bog or lake slowly rose to claim it. In this anaerobic environment, bacteria that cause decay cannot survive. The wood does not rot. Instead, it becomes waterlogged and chemically stabilized, preserved with such fidelity that it looks as if it were laid down yesterday. When archaeologists carefully excavate a section, they find the tool marks of iron axes still crisp on the oak. They can trace the growth rings of the trees used and even find the fingerprints of the builders pressed into the sap that oozed from the green wood during construction. This is not an artifact behind glass. It is a direct, tactile connection to a specific moment in time. You can stand on the same planks, see the same chop marks, and follow the same line that a community followed 2,000 years ago, perhaps on their way to make an offering to the gods of the water and the earth. These submerged peat roads are more than engineering. They are frozen journeys, offering a silent, tangible bridge to the footsteps, the labor, and the beliefs of a world that saw the landscape not as a resource to be mined, but as a living tapestry of meaning to be carefully, respectfully crossed. Brick by ancient brick, a different kind of road once fanned out across the island of Sri Lanka. At the heart of this network was the great capital of Anuradhapura, a center of Buddhist learning and political power that flourished for over 1,000 years. From this magnificent city, engineers of the ancient Sinhalese civilization laid down highways of fired brick, creating a radial system of such scale and precision it rivals the famous roads of Rome. These were not narrow footpaths. The principal avenues, like the one leading south to the sacred mountain of Mihintale, could stretch over 50 feet wide, their surfaces paved with interlocking bricks set in precise geometric patterns. To walk on one in its prime was to experience the height of ordered civilization, a smooth, level passage through a landscape that had been utterly transformed by human hands. The roads served as the literal connectors of a sophisticated, hydraulic society. They linked the capital to a constellation of satellite cities, major monasteries perched on rock outcrops, and, most critically, to the massive artificial reservoirs known as tanks. These tanks were the masterstroke of Sinhalese engineering, capturing monsoon rains to irrigate vast rice paddies and supply water to urban populations. The brick highways were the arteries that bound this system together, allowing for the movement of monks, administrators, and the grain tithes that sustained the kingdom. They facilitated pilgrimage, trade, and the rapid deployment of troops, integrating a realm that thrived on careful water management and spiritual devotion. This grand network met its end not with a sudden invasion, but with a slow, strategic retreat. In the 11th century of our Common Era, following centuries of intermittent conflict with South Indian kingdoms, the Sinhalese kings made a monumental decision. They abandoned Anuradhapura altogether, shifting the capital south to Polonnaruwa. The ancient city, with its colossal dagobas and sprawling monasteries, was left to the elements, and the jungle wasted no time. The tropical forest, held at bay for a millennium by constant maintenance, surged forward. Roots prized apart the meticulously laid bricks. Creepers and trees burst through the pavement. Within a few generations, the 50-foot wide highways were buried under a blanket of humus and a canopy of green, transforming from symbols of imperial order into mere linear mounds in the earth, visible only as faint ridges to the most observant eye. For centuries, they slept. Modern rediscovery began with the painstaking work of archaeologists and surveyors who followed ancient texts and local law. The process is one of literal unveiling. Teams must first clear decades of thick overgrowth by hand, a Herculean task in the humid heat. As the vegetation is peeled back, the true artistry is revealed. The brick paving is often found intact, the careful camber designed for drainage still evident. The roads are frequently flanked by stone-lined drains and sometimes even by curbstones, showing an astonishing attention to detail. Each excavated section is a revelation, confirming the descriptions in the great chronicle, the Mahavamsa. These were not merely functional routes, they were ceremonial approaches, designed to impress pilgrims and dignitaries arriving at the city or its major religious sites. Studying these jungle highways does more than just map an ancient city. It decodes an entire societal philosophy. The alignment of the roads with irrigation canals and tanks reveals a mind that saw transportation, water management, and urban planning as a single integrated system. The width of the roads speaks to the volume of traffic they were meant to carry, hinting at a bustling economy and a mobile population. Every cleared kilometer reinforces the image of Anuradhapura not as an isolated ceremonial center, but as the dynamic hub of a highly organized, technologically advanced civilization that mastered its environment for over 1,000 years. Today, a visitor can stand on a recently uncovered stretch of this brick pavement, feeling the sun-warmed texture underfoot, and look down the arrow-straight corridor as it disappears once more into the enclosing jungle. It is a powerful sensation, this tangible link to a planned and purposeful world, a reminder that even the grandest human designs are but a temporary order in the face of the forest's timeless, patient reclaiming. Off the western coast of India, where the Gulf of Kambat meets the Arabian Sea, faith and archaeology converge on a submerged legend. This is the site associated with Dwarka, the sacred city described in ancient Hindu texts as the glorious, fortified kingdom of Lord Krishna, said to have been reclaimed by the ocean upon his departure from the world. For centuries, these were considered poetic metaphors until marine archaeologists began to survey the silty seabed. What their instruments revealed was a sprawling, sunken landscape of stone. Large geometric structures, massive stone blocks forming walls and bastions, and long, linear formations that look unmistakably like the foundations of paved streets or grand causeways, all lying under 100 feet of water. The scale is staggering, suggesting a planned urban settlement, not a random collection of ruins. The most profound and controversial question is not what is there, but how old it might be. Some researchers, analyzing artifacts retrieved from the site and interpreting sonar data, have proposed dates of 9,000 years or more. If validated, such an age would be revolutionary, pushing the origins of complex urban planning in the region back thousands of years before the great civilizations of Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. This would not just be a lost city, it would be a lost epoch, a sunken chapter from a time when sea levels were dramatically lower at the end of the last ice age. The evidence fueling this debate is tangible, pulled from the murky depths. Dredging operations have brought up a collection of man-made artifacts, including worked stone tools, pottery shards, and even pieces of what appear to be hearth material. Most compelling are the stone anchors, with holes bored for rope, identical in style to those used by later maritime cultures. These are not natural stones, they are the clear signatures of human activity. Yet the Gulf of Kambat is a notoriously difficult place to conduct archaeology. The waters are turbid with silt, visibility is often near zero, and powerful tidal currents constantly reshape the seabed, potentially mixing artifacts from different time periods. This environment makes precise dating a monumental challenge. The stone structures themselves cannot be carbon dated, and retrieving artifacts from clear stratified layers is extremely difficult. Skeptics argue the formations could be natural sandstone outcrops shaped by currents, and that the recovered artifacts might have come from later shipwrecks or been carried by the tides from elsewhere. The debate is a perfect storm of high stakes and technical complexity. To resolve it, archaeologists would need to employ the most meticulous underwater excavation techniques, carefully brushing away layers of sediment to find a sealed layer containing organic material like wood or bone that could yield a definitive carbon date. Every stone block in that silent, dark city, every linear formation that hints at a street grid, is a piece of a puzzle that could rewrite history. They represent a potential road network from a mythic age, avenues that may have once bustled with life in a kingdom now remembered only in scripture and song, waiting for the sea to finally give up its secrets. From the Maya Sac-Biob to the sunken avenues of Herakleion, these 25 forgotten roads are more than just lines on a lost map. They are the physical handwriting of history, a language written not in ink, but in stone, etched into earth and concealed beneath waves and vines. Each one tells a universal story. They speak of our deep, persistent need for connection, to reach out from our homes and touch other worlds, other people, other ideas. They are monuments to raw ambition, to the will that moves mountains and drains lakes, to impose order on a chaotic landscape, and ultimately, they are records of our long, quiet struggle against nature's patient, reclaiming power. The jungle always grows back, the sand always drifts, the sea always rises. These roads show us the beautiful, temporary victories in that endless conversation. So we are left with questions that tie our past to our present. Which of these lost pathways captures your imagination the most? Is it the haunting solitude of the Roman road under Lake Fucinus, or the staggering scale of the causeways at El Mirador? Perhaps it is the spiritual geometry of Borobuder's missing processional ways, or the personal, poignant preservation of a family's footsteps beside the sweet track. And this leads to the final, thrilling thought. Do you believe there are even more waiting to be found? With every new satellite pass, every sweep of LiDAR over a remote forest, and every diver's descent into an uncharted lagoon, we gain new eyes. We are constantly redrawing the map of human history, adding lines that were thought erased forever. The next forgotten road is out there, a faint ridge under a farmer's field, a straight shadow in a satellite image, a legend whispered in a coastal village. Our journey to find them has only just begun. We would love to hear your thoughts. Share which forgotten road fascinates you and your theories on what might still be hidden in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the paved mysteries of our past, be sure to subscribe. There are always more paths to explore.